The fluorescent lights of New York Presbyterian Hospital flickered against the polished floors, making everything look too clean, too bright, almost cruel. Emily Carter adjusted her scrubs, one hand pressed against her swollen belly. 7 months pregnant, exhausted, yet proud to be on another night shift. The maternity ward was her second home. The cries of newborns usually filled her with it. Through the glass panel of room 312, she saw a scene that froze her heart. Her husband, Mark Reynolds, was standing inside, holding a newborn baby. He wasn't visiting a patient. He wasn't volunteering. Lauren Pierce, the woman he'd said was just a coworker, lay on the bed, pale but smiling, her hand resting gently over Mark's. The hospital bracelet around her wrist gleamed under the harsh light, and next to it another identical band wrapped around the baby's tiny arm. Mother and child, it read. Emily's breath caught. For a moment, she thought her vision blurred from exhaustion, but no, she was wide awake. The man she trusted, the father of her unborn child, was now cradling another woman's baby like it was his firstborn. She pressed a trembling hand over her mouth, afraid the sob rising in her throat would escape. Her world shrank to the sound of Mark's low voice, soft, proud, intimate, the same tone he used when he first felt their daughter kick. Dr. Grace Miller, her friend and senior on duty, noticed her standing frozen in the hallway. "Emily? You okay?" Grace's voice broke through the fog, but Emily couldn't answer. Her eyes were glued to the scene behind the glass. Mark leaned down and kissed Lauren's forehead. That single gesture shattered whatever denial Emily had left. The stainless steel walls of the maternity wing reflected her ghost-like face back at her. She turned and staggered into the empty corridor, the rhythmic beep of monitors following her like a cruel heartbeat. In the locker room, she sat on the cold bench, pulling off her ID badge with trembling fingers. Her phone buzzed. Mark's name lit up the screen. She stared at it for a long second before turning it face down. The sound of newborn cries echoed through the hall, twisting the knife deeper. "Not here," she whispered to herself. "Not anymore." Outside, rain hammered the city. The kind of rain that blurs everything. Buildings, headlights, memories. Emily threw her things into a tote, zipped her jacket over her belly, and walked out through the staff entrance. On Fifth Avenue, a yellow cab stopped beside her. She climbed in, water dripping from her hair onto the seat. The driver looked at her in the mirror, worried. "You all right, ma'am?" She managed a weak smile. "Just drive north." The city lights shimmered through the raindrops on the window. Manhattan, the place where her love story began, now watching her leave like a silent witness. Her iPhone buzzed again. She opened one last message from Mark. "Don't overreact, I can explain." Emily typed back slowly, "You already did." Then she powered off her phone. The cab merged into traffic, heading toward the Hudson River bridges. Emily pressed her hand over her belly, feeling her baby move. For the first time, she wasn't thinking of Mark. She was thinking of survival. The rain grew heavier, the skyline fading behind her. She didn't look back. Because sometimes the only way to protect your child is to disappear. And that night, Emily Carter vanished from New York without a trace. Rain poured over Manhattan like the sky was grieving with her. Emily Carter stood beneath the awning outside New York Presbyterian Hospital, soaked to the bone, staring at the street as if waiting for the city to tell her what to do next. She didn't cry. The tears were there, buried deep, but she'd used up every ounce of emotion she had. Her world had ended quietly, behind a glass window where a man she loved became a stranger. She clutched her hospital tote close. Inside, a few essentials: her phone, her wallet, a folded ultrasound photo of her unborn daughter, and a small silver cross from her mother. That was it. No suitcase, no plan, just escape. A yellow cab splashed water as it pulled up. "Where to?" the driver shouted over the storm. "Hudson Valley," she whispered. It wasn't logic that made her say it. It was instinct. Somewhere far from the city, far from Mark, far from that room where his mistress cradled the child that should have been hers. The cab jerked forward. Emily pressed her forehead to the cold window, watching the Manhattan skyline retreat behind her. Each glowing tower was a memory. The place Mark proposed, the cafe where they planned their future, the apartment on 74th Street where they painted the nursery together. Now those places belonged to another woman. Her phone buzzed again. Mark. She ignored it. Then another text appeared, this time from Dr. Grace Miller. "I saw you leave." Where are you? Please tell me you're safe. Emily's fingers trembled as she typed back. I'm fine. Don't tell anyone. Please. Grace replied instantly. He doesn't deserve your silence, Emily. Emily stared at the message, then turned off her phone. Right now, silence was all she had. The cab climbed north through the rain. The lights of the George Washington Bridge glowed faintly ahead, stretching across the Hudson River like a path to another world. She closed her eyes, letting the hum of the tires drown out her thoughts. When she finally opened them, the city was gone. The cab dropped her off in a small town where fog rolled between the hills. The air smelled of pine and damp soil. You sure this is it? The driver asked, confused. Emily nodded. Yes, thank you. She handed him cash and stepped into the mist. A neon motel sign flickered at the edge of the road, Maplewood Inn. It looked tired but safe. She walked in, dripping onto the floor. The clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, looked up. Rough night, honey? You could say that, Emily murmured. She rented a small room on the second floor. The walls were faded yellow, the air faintly smelled of coffee. She dropped her tote on the bed and finally let herself breathe. Her baby kicked lightly under her palm, as if reminding her she wasn't alone. Hey, sweetheart, she whispered. It's just us now. In the bathroom mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Red eyes, pale skin, hospital tag still clipped to her scrubs. She pulled it off and threw it into the trash. The sound echoed in the small room, a soft but final goodbye. Emily sat by the window watching headlights pass. Somewhere in the city, Mark was probably spinning a story, lying his way through another mess. Maybe he'd tell Lauren he was fixing things. Maybe he'd say Emily was overreacting. Let him talk. Because she was done being the quiet wife, the understanding nurse, the woman who forgave. Her reflection in the glass looked steadier now, even in exhaustion. The rain began to ease, leaving streaks on the window like scars fading slowly. Tomorrow, she would need a plan, a new place to live, prenatal care, money. But tonight, there was only one decision that mattered. She picked up her phone, opened her contacts, and deleted his number. Mark Reynolds no longer existed in her world. Outside, thunder rumbled one last time, then silence. Emily turned off the lamp, lay down, and placed both hands over her belly. I promise, she whispered, no one will ever hurt you the way he hurt me. And as the storm faded, so did the last trace of the woman she used to be. Morning sunlight crept through the thin motel curtains, washing the room in pale gold. Emily Carter opened her eyes to silence, the kind of silence that felt heavy but safe. For the first time in months, no hospital alarms, no patients calling, no Mark. Just her and the steady rhythm of her unborn daughter's heartbeat inside her. The motel clock blinked 8:12 a.m. She sat up slowly, stretching her sore back. Every muscle ached from exhaustion and tension, but she felt a strange calm. The rain had stopped. Outside, a soft mist curled around the trees. She showered, changed into a sweater and jeans, and checked out of the Maplewood Inn. The woman at the desk smiled. Heading somewhere better, honey? I hope so, Emily said, offering a small smile. She walked down the quiet street until she reached a little cafe with a chalkboard sign. The Rusty Spoon, coffee, pies, and Wi-Fi. Inside, the smell of fresh pastries wrapped around her like comfort. She ordered a decaf latte and blueberry muffin, sitting near the window. A newspaper lay folded on the next table. The headline hit her like a whisper of the life she'd left behind. Tech firm executive Mark Reynolds expands business division. She stared at the smiling photo of her husband, the man who'd betrayed her, posing in front of his Manhattan office tower. The article mentioned his longtime colleague Lauren Pierce, calling them a power couple in business innovation. Her stomach churned. She turned the paper face down. That's when her phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. Are you okay? It was Dr. Grace Miller. Emily hadn't expected her to reach out again. She typed back carefully, I'm safe. Don't tell anyone where I am. A moment later, Grace replied, That's all I needed to know. Take your vitamins. And remember, you're not alone. Emily exhaled shakily. Those words meant more than she could admit. She spent the next few days exploring the small Hudson Valley town. She rented a modest studio above a florist shop, with peeling paint and a view of the river. The rent was cheap, and the landlord, Mrs. Davenport, didn't ask many questions. Emily found a part-time job assisting at a local health clinic. Nothing fancy, just sorting charts and restocking supplies. Each night, she came home exhausted but grateful. The quiet town slowly began to heal her. She started journaling again, filling notebook pages with thoughts she never dared speak aloud. Day 5, she wrote, "The baby kicked when I smelled apple pie. Maybe she already loves sweetness." Sometimes she'd walk by the farmer's market, touching her belly and imagining a future without lies. She bought secondhand baby clothes, a tiny yellow onesie, a soft blanket embroidered with stars. But even peace had shadows. One afternoon, while returning from the clinic, she noticed a black Mercedes parked near her building. Its tinted windows made her chest tighten. For a moment, panic surged. Had Mark found her? But when she looked again, the car was gone. That night, she double-checked the locks twice and slept with the bedside lamp on. The next morning, she forced herself to breathe, to focus. She went to the local library and borrowed books about parenting, trauma recovery, and one titled Atomic Habits. She underlined a passage that struck her deeply. Small steps, repeated daily, rebuild even the most broken lives. So she made her first small step routine. Breakfast at 7, prenatal yoga from YouTube, work at 9, journaling before bed. Slowly, her body and mind began to synchronize again. Every so often, she'd dream of the city lights, of Fifth Avenue, of the Plaza Hotel, of Mark's hand brushing against hers. But those memories were fading, like echoes underwater. Then one night, while folding baby clothes, her phone lit up with a voicemail alert. Her heart skipped. She pressed play. Mark's voice poured through the speaker, low and urgent. "Emily, I know you're out there. We need to talk. Don't make this worse." She froze, her breath caught midair. For a long moment, she said nothing, just stared at the dark window reflecting her own frightened face. Then she deleted the message. Because the Emily he once knew, the one who waited, forgave, and hoped, was gone, and the woman who remained was learning how to fight back. 2 weeks passed since Emily's last shift at the small Hudson Valley clinic. Life had found a fragile rhythm. Mornings with warm oatmeal, quiet walks along the river, afternoons helping patients, and evenings writing letters to the daughter she hadn't met yet. The ache in her chest had dulled, though not disappeared. She told herself time was healing her. She almost believed it. Then one Tuesday morning, everything changed. Her phone lit up with a series of unknown numbers. She ignored the first few, assuming they were telemarketers. But the fifth call came with a voicemail notification. Against her better judgment, she pressed play. "Emily," Mark's voice rasped. "We need to talk. This running away thing, it's not good for anyone. You're being emotional. Come home, and we can fix this before people start asking questions." Her stomach turned. The arrogance in his tone was the same as always, smooth, controlled, rehearsed. He wasn't sorry. He was managing her, like a problem to be solved. She deleted the message immediately. But the next day, a letter arrived in her mailbox. No return address, just her name, written in the handwriting she used to know better than her own. Inside was a single sentence. "If you try to keep the baby from me, I'll make sure no court lets you win." Her hands shook so badly she nearly tore the paper. She sat at the small wooden table by the window, heart pounding. Mark had found her mailing address. Somehow. Someone had talked. Or maybe he'd hired someone. Either way, he knew. That night she called her friend from the city, Naomi Brooks, a lawyer she'd gone to nursing school with years ago. Naomi answered on the second ring. "Emily, oh my God, where have you been?" Emily's voice cracked. "I can't talk long. He found me." "Mark?" "Yes, he's threatening custody." Naomi's tone hardened instantly. "Then we make sure he doesn't have a case. Listen carefully. Keep every message, every letter, every voicemail. Don't respond. Don't engage. You're documenting evidence, understand?" Emily nodded, though Naomi couldn't see her. "He's not going to stop." "Then neither will we." The next day, Naomi emailed her a detailed list of steps. Secure bank accounts, freeze joint cards, change passwords, and create a digital folder with every trace of Mark's harassment. Emily printed it and pinned it above her desk. She labeled her files with simple names: threats, finances, pregnancy records. Each click felt like reclaiming power. But Mark escalated faster than she imagined. On Thursday, a delivery box arrived from Amazon. Inside wasn't what she expected. There was no receipt, no product, just a white envelope and a single photograph. It was her, walking home from the clinic 2 nights ago. A chill raced down her spine. She looked out the window, scanning the street, but it was empty. Still, she could feel eyes somewhere in the distance. Her breath came in quick bursts. She dialed Naomi. "Emily, listen to me," Naomi said firmly. "You're going to the police tomorrow morning. You'll file for a restraining order. I'll have paperwork ready. You're also going to talk to your OB. Stress like this can harm the baby." "I can't go to the city. He'll find me." "You won't. I'll come to you." The call ended. Emily sank onto the couch, holding her belly as tears spilled down her cheeks. The baby kicked gently as if sensing her fear. She whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's got you." That night, she double-locked the doors, drew the curtains, and placed her phone beside her bed, recording just in case. Rain began tapping against the window again. Soft at first, then heavier, like the storm from the night she left. Emily lay awake until dawn, eyes open, heart pounding, realizing the truth she'd been avoiding. Mark wasn't trying to win her back. He was trying to break her. And she was about to show him she couldn't be broken. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, painting soft light across the little apartment. For a moment, everything looked peaceful, until the sharp pain hit. Emily gasped, her coffee cup slipping from her hand and shattering on the floor. A deep cramp rippled through her stomach, stronger than anything she had felt before. Her heart thudded. She was only 7 months pregnant. She tried to steady her breathing, pressing her palm against her belly. "Not now," she whispered. "Please, not yet." The pain came again, sharper. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she scrolled to Dr. Grace Miller's number. Grace answered on the first ring. "Emily, are you all right?" "I don't know," Emily stammered. "It hurts. The baby's moving too fast. I think I'm contracting." Grace's voice turned urgent. "Listen to me carefully. You're in Hudson Valley, right? Get to the nearest hospital immediately. I'll call ahead. Don't drive yourself." Emily nodded, though Grace couldn't see. She grabbed her coat, stuffed her prenatal folder into her tote, and called a taxi. By the time the car arrived, her legs felt weak. The driver, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, saw her pale face and didn't ask questions. "Hospital?" Emily nodded. "Please, hurry." The 20-minute ride felt endless. She gripped the seat, eyes squeezed shut, whispering to the baby inside her. "Hold on, Lily. Just hold on." When the cab finally stopped at Hudson Valley Medical Center, nurses rushed her inside. Machines beeped, voices overlapped. A young doctor examined her quickly and called out, "Preterm contractions. Get IV fluids and monitor fetal heart rate." Emily's world blurred into white walls and voices. She focused on one thing, the monitor beside her bed. The sound of her baby's heartbeat filled the room. Fast, strong, steady. Tears welled in her eyes. Grace arrived an hour later, still in her hospital coat, rainwater dripping from her umbrella. "You're lucky I had a conference upstate," she said softly, holding Emily's hand. "You scared me." Emily tried to smile. "I scared myself." Grace checked the monitor, then turned to the nurse. "She's stable now. Keep her overnight for observation." When they were alone, Emily whispered, "Grace, he found me." Grace froze. "Mark?" Emily nodded weakly. "Letters, photos. He's watching me. I don't know how." Grace's jaw tightened. "Then it's time to stop running." Emily looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Grace said, lowering her voice, "we document everything. You're not just a scared wife anymore. You're a patient under harassment. That gives us leverage. Medical evidence, protection." Emily swallowed hard. "He won't stop until he wins. Then we make sure he can't." Grace stayed by her side all night. They talked in low whispers about legal steps, stress, and survival. Emily told her about Naomi's plan, the evidence folders, and the mysterious car. Grace promised to testify if needed. At 3 a.m., the storm outside intensified, lightning flashing through the window. Emily woke suddenly to another sharp pain. "Grace, something's wrong." Grace rushed to her, checking the monitors. "Your body's reacting to the stress. You need rest, not fear." She adjusted the IV and sat beside her, holding her hand until the pain faded. In the dim hospital light, Emily realized something profound. Fear had kept her alive this long, but courage would be the thing that saved her child. By sunrise, her contractions had eased. Grace smiled wearily. "You and Lily are fighters." Emily managed a faint laugh. "She gets it from me." Grace squeezed her hand. "Then promise me something. No more facing this alone. We'll make sure he never touches you again." Emily looked out the window. The rain had stopped and sunlight broke through the clouds. For the first time, she believed it, because survival wasn't enough anymore. It was time to take back control. The week after her hospital scare, Emily Carter moved more carefully. Every motion, every breath reminded her how close she'd come to losing everything. Dr. Grace Miller insisted she stay on partial bed rest, but Emily's mind couldn't rest. Fear had turned into focus. If Mark wanted a war, she would give him one, but she would fight smart. On Monday morning, she called Naomi Brooks again. The lawyer's voice came through firm and crisp. Good timing. I've already started a file under your maiden name. He won't trace it. Emily's pulse quickened. What do we do first? Naomi didn't hesitate. We build a legal wall around you and your child. You'll separate finances, secure digital traces, and log every threat. Think of it as creating armor. They met the next day in a quiet corner booth of a small cafe off Main Street. Emily wore an oversized hoodie, hood up, eyes hidden behind sunglasses. Naomi arrived in a navy trench coat, her laptop tucked under one arm. She looked like calm authority personified. Okay, Naomi said, flipping open her MacBook Pro. Let's start with financial control. You'll need a new checking account, under your name only, at a local bank. I'll send you the documents. Emily nodded, scribbling notes in her small leather notebook. Second, Naomi continued, Mark's messages, don't delete them. I'll subpoena his phone records later. Every word he sends you becomes a weapon we can use. Emily glanced out the window, feeling both fear and strength twined together. He sent a photo of me walking home. He's following me. Naomi's expression hardened. Then we're escalating. That's stalking. We can file for a restraining order, but we'll need verification. Timestamps, proof of delivery. Do you still have the envelope? Yes. Perfect. Keep it sealed. Fingerprints might matter. The waitress came by, refilling their mugs. Naomi leaned closer, lowering her voice. I also want you to write everything down. Every contact since you left New York. Memory fades, paper doesn't. Emily smiled faintly. You sound like Grace. Smart woman, Naomi said. She's got your medical records locked, right? If stress affected your pregnancy, that's more evidence. Courts care about the mother's safety. Emily nodded slowly, realizing how different this fight would be. Not emotional. Strategic, controlled. As they left the cafe, Naomi handed her a sleek black pen. Mont Blanc, she said with a small grin. A gift from my mentor. Keep it. You're gonna sign your freedom with it. Emily turned the pen in her fingers, its weight steady and cool. Thank you. That night, back in her apartment, Emily set up folders across her dining table. She labeled each one with calm precision. Threats, financial, medical, proof of presence, Mark's lies. Her small lamp cast a warm glow over the papers, transforming fear into order. Grace stopped by around 8, bringing soup and vitamins. You look better, she said softly. I'm planning my counterattack, Emily replied, managing a smile. Grace nodded approvingly. Good. Remember, documentation wins wars. Hours later, as Emily filed another screenshot, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then hit record before answering. Mark's voice oozed through the line. You think hiding in that little town makes you safe? You're mine, Emily. You and the baby. Her chest tightened, but she kept her voice even. This call is being recorded. A pause. Then the line went dead. Emily saved the recording under storm2.mp3. When she finally crawled into bed, exhaustion settled over her, but it was different this time. Not the helpless kind. This was the weight of purpose. She whispered to her belly, we're building something he can't destroy. The wind rustled through the trees outside, gentle, almost approving. And somewhere deep inside, Emily felt a spark ignite, the kind of strength that doesn't shout but endures. Because the law wasn't just protection anymore. It was her revenge. The hospital rooms smelled faintly of disinfectant and rain. Outside, thunder rolled across the Hudson Valley, shaking the windows. Emily Carter lay on the bed, clutching the side rail as another contraction tore through her body. Sweat slicked her forehead. She was 34 weeks too early, too fragile, but her daughter had chosen her own time. Dr. Grace Miller stood beside her, calm but firm. You're doing beautifully, Emily. Just breathe through it. We've got you. Emily gritted her teeth, gasping. She's coming too soon. Grace shook her head. She's strong. You're both strong. We'll take care of her. Nurses moved around them in quiet precision, adjusting monitors and IVs. The beeping rhythm of the fetal heart monitor filled the air, steady and fast. Emily focused on that sound. It was the one thing anchoring her in the storm. Hours blurred together in pain and light. She remembered gripping Grace's hand, remembered crying out for her mother, remembered whispering her baby's name through tears. "Come on, Lily," she pleaded. "Come on, sweetheart. We're almost there." Then, a final push. A sharp cry. The sound split the air and broke something open inside her. Grace lifted a tiny, wriggling bundle and placed her on Emily's chest. "She's here." Emily looked down at her daughter, small, pink, furious at the world, and felt her heart stop. She laughed and sobbed all at once, whispering, "Hi, Lily, it's Mommy." The baby's fingers curled around her thumb, impossibly small yet determined. Emily's world shrank to that single touch. For the first time since she'd left New York, she wasn't afraid. Grace smiled softly. 7 pounds even. She's going to be fine. Tears slid down Emily's cheeks. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Grace said gently. "You did this. You kept her safe." Later that night, after Lily was settled in the nursery, Emily sat in her hospital bed holding her phone. The glow of the screen lit her tired face. She opened the photo app and took a picture. Lily sleeping peacefully, her tiny fist resting against her cheek. Then she texted her mother in Ohio for the first time in months. "She's here. Her name is Lily. We're okay." Within minutes, her mother replied, "I'm proud of you. Come home when you can." Emily smiled weakly, then opened Instagram out of habit and froze. Mark's latest post filled the screen. A photo of him in a suit, holding a drink, smiling beside Lauren Pierce. The caption read, "Family first, blessed beyond words." Her hands trembled. 100 comments poured in. "Congratulations," heart emojis. "What a beautiful couple." The world believed his lie. Grace entered quietly, noticing the expression on Emily's face. "Don't look at that," she said softly. "He gets to post happiness," Emily whispered, voice shaking. "While I hide." Grace walked closer, her tone firm. "Not for long. You're not going to hide forever." Emily nodded slowly. She wiped her eyes and took another picture, this one of her hand holding Lily's. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't posed, but it was real. She saved it to her phone without posting it. "One day," she murmured, "when the truth is ready." The next morning, Naomi called. "I heard from Grace. Congratulations, Mama." Emily laughed softly. "I can't believe she's real." "She is, and she's your strength now," Naomi said. "Also, I filed the preliminary protection order. Mark's officially on notice." Relief washed over Emily like warm sunlight. "Thank you, Naomi, for everything." "Don't thank me yet," Naomi warned. "This is just the beginning. The minute he realizes he can't control you, he'll lose control himself." After the call, Emily held Lily close, inhaling the sweet scent of her skin. The baby shifted slightly, opening sleepy eyes that mirrored Emily's own. She whispered, "You and me, Lily. We're going to build a world where no one lies to us again." Outside, the storm had passed, leaving a pink sunrise over the Hudson River. The light spilled into the room, soft and golden, wrapping mother and child in quiet promise. Because Lily wasn't just her daughter, she was her reason to rise again. 3 months after Lily's birth, the world had become gentler. Or at least it looked that way. The mornings were quiet, filled with sunlight spilling across Emily's small apartment and the soft coos of her baby. The Hudson Valley air smelled of apples and rain. Every day felt like a step away from the life she'd left behind. But peace never lasts when someone like Mark Reynolds is hunting you. It started with little things. A voicemail with heavy breathing, a black sedan parked across the street that left whenever she looked directly at it. Once, a flower delivery arrived with no note. White lilies, her namesake for her daughter. The florist said a man had paid in cash. Emily's stomach twisted as she placed the flowers in the trash. The gesture wasn't love, it was possession. That night, she called Naomi. "He's found me again," Emily whispered, pacing the kitchen. "Describe what happened." "The car, the calls, the flowers." Naomi sighed, her tone measured but angry. "He's pushing boundaries to see if you'll react. That's how control works. We need to make him regret it." "How?" Naomi paused. "First, we reinforce your protection order. Second, I'll contact a private investigator I trust. We'll find proof of his harassment before he can twist the story." Emily swallowed hard. "What if he comes here?" "Then we'll make sure the police have no choice but to act. I'll send someone tonight to install a security system." "Grace already told me Lily's fine, right?" "She's perfect," Emily said softly, glancing toward the crib. "Good," Naomi replied. "Then let's keep her world safe." The call ended, but Emily couldn't shake the tension. She double-checked the locks, then sat by the window, watching shadows stretch across the street. Her old iPhone buzzed once, an unknown text. You can't hide a child from her father forever. Her pulse quickened. She deleted it immediately and set her phone face down. The next morning, Naomi's investigator arrived, a retired NYPD detective named Ray Donovan, gray-haired but sharp-eyed. He inspected the apartment, then installed discreet cameras near the door and windows. You'll get motion alerts straight to your phone, he explained. And if he shows up, we'll know. Thank you, Emily said, though her voice trembled. Don't thank me, Ray replied. Thank Naomi. She doesn't lose. That afternoon, Emily took Lily for a walk through the park. The leaves were turning gold and red, and for a moment, the world felt normal again. Mothers laughed with their children, couples sipped coffee on benches. Emily breathed in deeply, trying to let herself feel part of it. Then, from across the playground, she caught sight of a figure, broad shoulders, a tailored gray coat, watching her. Her body froze. Mark. He didn't move toward her, didn't wave. He just stood there, half hidden behind a tree, his expression unreadable. Emily's heart pounded as she turned the stroller around and walked away quickly, every instinct screaming run. She didn't stop until she was back inside her apartment, door locked, shades drawn. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed with a new voicemail. She hesitated, then pressed play. Mark's voice was calm, too calm. You look good, Em. Motherhood suits you. Maybe now we can talk like adults. Her breath came shallow. He wasn't threatening this time. He was baiting her, trying to sound reasonable. That was worse. That meant he was planning something. She called Naomi again. He was here, in the park. Did he approach you? No, just watched. Good. Don't confront him. Let the cameras, the system, and me do the work. Emily nodded, though fear trembled inside her. She looked at Lily sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm outside. That night, she sat on the couch holding her daughter, whispering softly, "He doesn't own us anymore. He'll never touch our peace." Then she opened her MacBook, labeled a new folder, surveillance proof. The first entry, Mark spotted, Hudson Park, 2:17 p.m. The next time he tried to intimidate her, she'd be ready. Because Emily Carter wasn't the same woman he betrayed. She was the woman preparing for justice. The first snow of winter drifted across the Hudson Valley like feathers. Emily Carter bundled Lily in a soft blanket, pressing a kiss to her forehead before stepping out into the cold. Life had become routine again, safe, predictable, manageable. She still felt Mark's shadow sometimes, but the fear no longer ruled her. She had her daughter, her small job at the clinic, and her quiet strength. That morning, Grace had asked her to cover a few extra hours at the downtown community health event. Emily hesitated, but agreed. She needed the paycheck. And she wanted to help. The venue was a renovated warehouse turned wellness fair, bright with banners and warm lights. Mothers pushed strollers, volunteers handed out coffee, and local businesses had booths. It felt normal. It felt human. By noon, the crowd thickened. Emily was helping a patient sign forms when she heard someone call out, "Excuse me, miss, you dropped this." She turned and saw a man holding her pen, tall, mid-30s, clean-cut in a gray cashmere coat. His eyes were a deep blue, calm but piercing. "Oh, thank you," she said, taking it back. "No problem," he replied with an easy smile. "I didn't mean to interrupt." His voice was warm, confident, the kind that filled a room without trying. He nodded toward the booth banner behind her. "You work here?" "Part-time nurse," she said. "Helping with postnatal screenings." He extended a hand. "Ethan Vale." She froze for half a second. The name sounded familiar. Then she remembered. Vale Tech, a tech company based in Manhattan. She'd seen him once on a magazine cover when she was still married to Mark, a billionaire entrepreneur known for staying out of scandals. She shook his hand politely. "Emily Carter." He studied her face for a moment, something flickering in his eyes. Recognition or just curiosity? "Thank you for what you're doing here," he said softly. "These programs save lives." "It's nothing big," she murmured. "It's everything to the people who walk in that door." Before she could answer, Lily stirred in her stroller, letting out a soft cry. Ethan crouched slightly, his tone gentle. "Hey there, little one. Big day out?" Emily smiled in spite of herself. Most men, especially the powerful type, stiffened around babies. Ethan seemed comfortable, natural. Lily blinked up at him, then gave a tiny giggle. "She approves," Emily said. "I'll take that as an honor," he replied with a grin. A nurse called Emily from the other side of the booth, and she excused herself. When she returned a few minutes later, Ethan was gone, but on the counter sat a folded card. She opened it and found a handwritten note. "For emergencies or just coffee. EV." Below it, his business card. She tucked it into her tote without thinking much. Still that night, she found herself rereading the note. The handwriting was careful, steady, no hidden agenda, no manipulation. Just decent. A few days later, an email arrived from the events coordinator. "Mr. Val asked if you'd consider helping organize our next maternal health project. It's paid work." Emily hesitated. Was this coincidence or fate? She forwarded the email to Naomi. Her reply came quick. "He's legit. Good reputation. But be cautious. Always keep your guard up." Grace, on the other hand, was more encouraging. "You deserve to meet good people again, Emily. Don't let fear decide everything." So Emily said yes. Her first meeting with Ethan took place at a coffee shop near the river. He arrived early, laptop open, 2 drinks already ordered. "1 decaf latte, 1 regular," he said, smiling. "Didn't know which one you'd prefer." She laughed softly. "The decaf, thank you." They talked about healthcare access, small-town systems, and his plans to fund mobile clinics. He listened when she spoke, really listened. No interruptions, no arrogance. When she left, her cheeks hurt from smiling. And for the first time since her life had fallen apart, Emily felt something she hadn't dared to feel in months. Hope. Because sometimes the people who walk into your life unexpectedly are the ones who help you rebuild it. The next few weeks passed in quiet rhythm, almost too peaceful to be real. Emily Carter worked side by side with Ethan Vale on the new maternal health project. His world was sleek, meetings, numbers, quiet power, and hers was raw and human. Mothers, infants, and stories. Somehow, they met in the middle. Every morning they shared coffee before starting. Sometimes he'd bring her a croissant from the little bakery by the river, joking that good ideas needed good carbs. Emily would laugh, surprised how natural it felt to be seen without judgment. He asked once gently about her life before Hudson Valley. She hesitated, eyes on her latte. "I used to work in Manhattan, in labor and delivery. And now you're here," he said softly. "Sometimes leaving is the only way to stay alive." Emily looked up sharply, but his gaze wasn't pity. It was understanding. Whatever his past was, it had its own scars. Over time, their meetings stretched longer, their conversations deeper. Ethan was patient, never crossing boundaries. When Lily fussed during one lunch, he didn't flinch. He simply rocked the stroller with a quiet hum, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Still, Emily couldn't stop the voice in her head whispering, "It's too soon. You're still healing." And then, one Friday morning, the illusion of peace cracked. Naomi called, her voice low and urgent. "Emily, I just got word. Mark filed a petition in New York family court. He's demanding visitation rights." Emily's breath caught. "He can't. There's a restraining order. He's claiming he didn't know about the baby until recently. He's using the media to paint himself as a heartbroken father. His PR team's pushing headlines already." Emily's hands trembled. "Oh God." "Listen to me," Naomi said firmly. "He's bluffing. He wants control, not custody. I'll file our counter within 48 hours. Just don't engage publicly. Let me handle it." Emily nodded, though fear burned behind her ribs. After she hung up, she stared at the skyline beyond the river. The water looked calm, but beneath, there were currents just like Mark. Always hidden, always pulling. That evening, during their project meeting, Ethan noticed her pale face. "You're quiet tonight. Everything okay?" She forced a smile. "Just tired." He leaned back, studying her carefully. "You don't have to tell me, but if something's wrong, I can help." Something in his voice, steady, not intrusive, broke the wall she'd built. She told him everything. The threats, the stalking, the new court filing. When she finished, Ethan didn't say a word for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "I can make a few calls. My legal team has handled cases like this before. We'll make sure he can't touch you." Emily blinked, tears gathering. "Why would you do that for me?" He smiled faintly. "Because I've seen men like him, and because you remind me that not all good people get what they deserve, until someone stands beside them." Her throat tightened. For once, she didn't know what to say. That night, back in her apartment, she opened her laptop to a flood of news alerts. Headlines screamed across the screen. Businessman Mark Reynolds fights for rights to see his child. Tragic story, estranged wife keeps father from his daughter. Her photo appeared in one article, taken months ago, blurry from afar. She shut the laptop quickly, her pulse racing. She picked up Lily, who stirred but didn't wake. "I won't let him win," she whispered, pressing her cheek against her baby's hair. Her phone buzzed, a new text from Ethan. "You're not alone in this. Tomorrow, meet me at the office. We'll handle it together." Emily stared at the message, heart swelling with something fierce and unfamiliar. Not just fear, not just gratitude, something like courage. She kissed Lily's forehead, whispering, "Tomorrow, everything changes." Outside, snow kept falling. Soft, relentless, pure. Because in the light of kindness, even the longest shadow begins to fade. The next morning, the Hudson River shimmered like glass beneath a pale winter sky. Emily Carter stood outside the Valtech headquarters, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. She'd never been to a building like this before. Steel, glass, quiet power humming through every inch. A doorman opened the door, and she stepped inside, clutching a folder labeled Custody Files. The lobby was elegant, understated. White marble floors, soft jazz, a scent of coffee, and expensive cologne. She felt underdressed in her wool coat and thrifted scarf, but the receptionist smiled warmly. "Mr. Vale is expecting you, Miss Carter." When the elevator opened, Ethan was already waiting on the top floor. No suit today, just a navy sweater, sleeves rolled to his forearms. The city skyline spread behind him, sunlight bouncing off the Manhattan towers. "Morning," he said gently. "You made it." Emily exhaled. "Barely slept, but yes." He gestured toward a conference table, where two people waited, a woman in a black blazer and a man with silver-rimmed glasses. "This is Clara Jensen, my corporate counsel, and Daniel Reyes, a family law specialist. Both are here for you." Emily blinked. "For me?" Ethan nodded. "They've agreed to consult, pro bono. You don't owe me anything. I just want you to be safe." Her throat tightened. Gratitude burned in her chest, but also discomfort. She wasn't used to kindness without strings. Daniel spoke first, his tone calm and professional. "Miss Carter, I've reviewed your documents and Naomi Brooks' filings. You're in a strong position. The restraining order, the recorded threats, the surveillance, this all paints a very clear picture." Emily looked down at her trembling hands. "He's trying to make me look unstable." Clara leaned forward. "Then we show the opposite. You're employed, you have stable housing, and you've been under medical supervision. You're the picture of responsibility." Ethan slid a cup of coffee toward her. "You've done everything right, Emily. He just doesn't know how to handle losing control." She stared at the steam curling from the cup. "It's strange. I used to think if I stayed quiet, things would calm down. But silence didn't save me. It just taught him I wouldn't fight back." Ethan's eyes softened. "Then don't be quiet anymore." Something shifted in her right then, a weight lifting, replaced by resolve. She straightened her shoulders. "Okay, what's next?" Daniel outlined the plan: an emergency custody injunction, media counterstatements, a digital forensic sweep to prove Mark's stalking. Every detail was precise, methodical, airtight. By noon, Emily's nerves had turned to steel. When the meeting ended, Ethan walked her to the elevator. "Do you trust me?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I think I do." "Good," he said with a faint smile. "Because we're not done yet. Tomorrow's the first hearing. I'll be there." Her chest tightened. "You don't have to." "I want to," he interrupted softly. "This isn't charity, it's partnership." The elevator doors opened. Emily stepped in, heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. That night, back home, she prepared. She fed Lily, folded baby clothes, reviewed every document Naomi had emailed. She placed the Mont Blanc pen Naomi had given her on top of the folder, like a quiet reminder that power didn't always roar. Sometimes it signed papers. When Lily finally fell asleep, Emily sat by the window, looking out at the moonlit street. Somewhere out there, Mark was probably plotting his next move, rehearsing his lines for court. But she wasn't that trembling woman anymore. She whispered into the quiet room, "You took everything you could, Mark. But you forgot, I'm still standing." The clock ticked softly. Tomorrow she would walk into that courtroom not as a victim, but as a mother, a nurse, a survivor, and a woman unafraid of the truth. Because the moment you stop running from your past, it starts running from you. Snow dusted the courthouse steps like powdered sugar, gleaming under the pale January sun. Emily Carter adjusted her scarf and took a deep breath, her pulse echoing in her ears. She could hear the hum of the city, the engines, the chatter, the distant horns, but inside she felt only silence. Today would decide whether her daughter's future remained safe or fell back into Mark's control. Naomi met her at the entrance, a stack of files tucked under her arm, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be," Emily said, forcing a small smile. "Good," Naomi replied, "because we're not just defending, you're taking your power back." Inside, the courtroom smelled faintly of old wood and coffee. The air was tense, filled with whispers and shuffling papers. Across the aisle, Mark sat with his lawyer, his suit perfectly pressed, his expression calm and rehearsed. Lauren wasn't with him, but Emily caught a glimpse of her outside in the hallway, pretending not to look in. When Mark's gaze met hers, a small smirk tugged at his lips, the same smirk that used to make her doubt herself. Now, it only fueled her resolve. The judge entered, and the room rose. The hearing began. Mark's lawyer started first, painting him as a concerned father, a man unfairly alienated from his child. Every sentence made Emily's stomach twist. He spoke about reconciliation, shared parenting, and emotional harm caused by separation. Naomi leaned toward Emily, whispering, "He's laying a trap, wait for it." Then came their turn. Naomi stood, composed and unflinching. "Your Honor," she began, "this case isn't about a man seeking connection with his child. It's about control. What my client endured is not co-parenting. It's intimidation." She placed a USB drive on the table. Exhibit C, audio evidence of verbal threats made by Mr. Reynolds. The judge nodded. "Proceed." Naomi pressed play. Mark's voice filled the courtroom, low, venomous, unmistakable. "You think hiding in that little town makes you safe? You're mine, Emily. You and the baby." A hush fell. Mark's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Even Mark's composure cracked, his jaw tightening. Naomi let the silence stretch before continuing. "There's more." The second recording played. "This call is being recorded," Emily's voice said. Then Mark's. "You'll regret that." Every word landed like a strike. Emily didn't look away. For the first time, he was the one trapped in the truth. Naomi handed the judge a file of timestamps, transcriptions, and Grace's written testimony confirming Mark's behavior at the hospital. "This isn't a bitter ex-wife, Your Honor. This is a survivor who documented everything because no one believed her at first." The judge looked over the documents quietly, then turned to Mark. "Do you deny these recordings?" Mark cleared his throat. "They're taken out of context." Naomi's voice cut through like glass. "The context is your own words." The tension in the room was thick enough to touch. When the session paused for recess, Emily stepped into the hallway, gripping the railing as her knees threatened to give out. Ethan was waiting there, dressed in a tailored coat, his expression steady. "How did it go?" She managed a trembling smile. "The truth spoke for itself," he nodded, eyes soft. "Then you're already winning." As she turned back toward the courtroom, Emily realized something strange. She wasn't afraid anymore. The courthouse no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like closure. When the judge reconvened later that afternoon, his decision was clear. Full custody remained with Emily. Mark's visitation rights were suspended, pending psychological evaluation. Mark's smirk was gone. Emily stood tall as the gavel struck. Outside, the city lights began to glow through the snow, and she lifted Lily in her arms, holding her close. "We did it, baby," she whispered. Her voice didn't tremble, because the truth had finally stopped being her secret and started being her shield. The story hit the media like wildfire. Within 24 hours of the custody ruling, headlines blazed across every major outlet. Businessman Mark Reynolds loses custody battle after audio leak. Corporate powerhouse accused of threats against ex-wife. From Manhattan glory to public shame. Emily Carter hadn't planned for the world to know her pain, but truth has a way of breaking walls on its own. The courtroom audio had been made public after someone inside leaked it. No one knew who, though Naomi had her theories. Mark's reputation, once polished like glass, was now cracking under the weight of his own words. Emily sat in her apartment, the morning light filtering through the curtains as the news anchor's voice played from the TV. Sources close to the Reynolds family confirm that the former executive is under internal investigation for misconduct. She turned the TV off. Lily gurgled in her playpen, reaching for a stuffed bunny. Emily smiled softly. "You don't need to see any of that, sweetheart. The storm's not ours anymore." Her phone buzzed. Naomi calling. Hey, Emily answered. Hey, warrior, Naomi said, her tone triumphant. He's finished. The company just suspended him pending review. His sponsors are dropping like flies. PR nightmare of the decade. Emily sank into the couch, exhaling a long, shaky breath. I thought I'd feel relieved, but it just feels quiet. That's peace, Em. You earned it. They hung up, and Emily stared out the window. Snow was melting, leaving rivulets of water running down the glass like the world was finally rinsing itself clean. By noon, her inbox overflowed with messages. Journalists, advocacy groups, even old nursing colleagues reaching out to say they believed her. But Emily didn't respond. She didn't want fame. She wanted freedom. That evening, she met Grace for dinner at a small Italian restaurant tucked between two bookstores. Grace looked proud, her eyes soft behind her glasses. You did what so many can't, she said, sipping her wine. You faced him and didn't break. I had people who wouldn't let me, Emily said quietly. Grace smiled. You built your own armor. As they talked, the waiter stopped by their table. There's a gentleman who paid for your meal, ma'am, he said, nodding toward the bar. Emily turned and saw Ethan Vale leaning casually against the counter, his coat draped over his arm, his expression unreadable but kind. He gave a small nod, then turned back to his drink, not intruding, not expecting. Grace smirked. He's good for you, you know. Emily blushed. He's just been there. Exactly. Later that night, when she stepped outside, Ethan was waiting by the door. Snowflakes dusted his shoulders like glitter. You didn't have to pay, she said softly. I know, he replied. But you've paid enough for everything else. They walked together along the quiet street, their breath visible in the cold. The press is relentless, she murmured. Every time I open my phone, it's my name beside his. He looked at her gently. That'll pass. What stays is what you built from it. She stopped, facing him. I didn't build anything. I just survived. Ethan shook his head. Surviving is the foundation of everything. You rebuilt yourself from ashes, Emily? That's more powerful than you think. A silence stretched between them, comfortable and full of something unspoken. Then he said quietly, There's a charity gala next month at the plaza. My company's sponsoring it. Come, no press, no spotlight. Just a night where you can remember what joy feels like. She hesitated, then smiled. I'll think about it. As he drove away, Emily looked up at the night sky, stars faint but visible above the city glow. She thought about the woman she used to be, the one who cried in a hospital hallway, who ran through the rain with nothing but fear and faith. That woman was gone. What remained was someone stronger, quieter, and unbreakably whole. Because while his empire was collapsing, she was just beginning to rise. A thin layer of snow covered Manhattan like powdered glass, glittering under the early morning sun. Emily Carter stood outside Naomi's downtown law office, clutching her folder of notes. Tomorrow was the official deposition, the first time she would face Mark again since the court ruling. Naomi called it a formality, but Emily knew better. Mark wouldn't go quietly. He never did. Inside, the conference room smelled faintly of coffee and printer ink. Naomi sat at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up, her laptop open to a digital file labeled Case Prep Final. Across from her sat Dr. Grace Miller, ready with supporting medical testimony. On the corner, a small camera was set up for practice recording. Naomi gestured toward it. Today's not the fight, today's the rehearsal. You'll be ready for every trick he tries. Emily exhaled, her nerves buzzing. Let's do it. Grace gave her a reassuring nod. You've already lived the hard part, Emily. This is just telling the truth. Naomi clicked the recorder. All right, first question. Her tone shifted, firm and prosecutorial. Mrs. Carter, why did you deny the father visitation rights? Emily straightened in her chair, forcing calm into her voice. Because he threatened me repeatedly. Because I feared for my child's safety. Do you have proof? Naomi pressed. Yes, voicemails, text messages, and surveillance footage that show him following me. Good, Naomi said, pausing the recorder. Now again, but this time, slower. You're not defending yourself, you're describing reality. Let the weight of his actions carry themselves. Emily repeated the answer, her tone steady, her breathing even. Grace smiled. Perfect, clear and strong. They spent hours rehearsing every possible question. Mark's lawyer would try to twist her words, provoke her emotions, paint her as bitter. Naomi played the role flawlessly, alternating between empathy and attack, until Emily no longer flinched. Finally, Naomi leaned back, satisfied. That's enough for today. Emily rubbed her temples. I don't think I've ever been this tired without moving. That's emotional labor, Grace said with a grin. It burns calories, I promise. They all laughed, a brief, honest sound that cut through the tension. As they packed up, Naomi's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her face tightening. Well, speak of the devil. Emily froze. Naomi nodded, reading the message aloud. See you tomorrow. Hope you're ready to tell your side of the fairy tale. Grace muttered under her breath. He's still performing. Naomi deleted the message. Ignore it. He's baiting you, trying to rattle your confidence. Don't give him that satisfaction. Emily nodded slowly. He's not going to break me again. When they left the office, evening had fallen. The city lights shimmered against the snow. Ethan's black Mercedes waited by the curb, engine idling. He stepped out, holding a cup holder with 2 coffees. I thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. Extra cream, right? Emily smiled faintly. You remembered. Hard to forget, he said softly. Naomi texted me the schedule. You ready for tomorrow? She took a deep breath. Yes, I'm done being afraid. Ethan studied her face for a moment. You know, courage doesn't mean you're not scared. It just means you've decided something else matters more. She looked down at the steam rising from her cup. Like Lily. Exactly, he said. And truth. They drove in silence through the glowing city. The radio played faint jazz. The streets sparkled with winter lights. When they reached her apartment, Ethan walked her to the door but didn't push to come inside. He simply said, tomorrow, no matter what happens, remember, you've already won. Emily looked at him, her eyes reflecting the streetlight. Because I told the truth? Because you lived it, he replied. When he left, Emily stood by the window, watching his taillights disappear into the snow. She whispered to her reflection, tomorrow isn't about him. It's about me, reclaiming everything he tried to take. Outside, New York shimmered, loud, alive, and waiting. Because the next time Emily spoke her truth, it wouldn't just defend her, it would define her. The city outside Emily Carter's window glittered like 1,000 promises she didn't yet believe. The Plaza Hotel loomed across the park, its golden lights glowing against the February night. Tomorrow, that ballroom would host the charity gala for maternal health, a night of gowns, champagne, and cameras. A night where she would stand not as the victim of a scandal, but as a survivor. Emily laid Lily's favorite blanket in the crib and smoothed it gently. You'll be with Grandma tomorrow, she whispered, brushing her daughter's cheek. Just one night, okay? Lily gurgled, gripping her finger with a tiny hand that made Emily's heart ache with love and fear at once. Her mother, Helen Carter, packed a small diaper bag nearby. You sure you're ready for this, sweetheart? Emily smiled faintly. I have to be. I can't keep hiding from the world. Helen looked at her for a long moment, then walk in there like the woman who survived hell and came back shining. Emily laughed softly. That's a tall order. Good, her mother said. You've always been tall enough for it. After Lily fell asleep, Emily stood before her closet. Grace had insisted she borrow a dress from her, an elegant black gown with a low back and soft satin that shimmered when the light hit it. Emily ran her fingers across the fabric. It felt like transformation, fragile but powerful. Her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. Car picks you up at 6:45. Don't worry about a thing. Just show up and be yourself. She typed back, you always make it sound easy. It's easy when you've already done the hardest part. For the next hour, she reviewed the event details Naomi had emailed. Tomorrow wasn't just a celebration, it was an opportunity. The foundation was partnering with Valitech to fund community health programs, and Emily's story, though she'd never planned it, had become a symbol of resilience. She'd been asked to speak briefly, 5 minutes on courage, motherhood, and rebuilding. 5 minutes that could rewrite how the world remembered her. But beneath the nerves and the excitement, there was a flicker of unease. Mark hadn't been heard from since the deposition. No calls, no messages, no sightings. Naomi believed he'd gone silent out of shame. Ethan suspected he was regrouping. Emily tried not to think about it, but every creak of the building made her shoulders tense. Around midnight, she brewed chamomile tea and sat by the window. Snowflakes drifted across Central Park, soft and endless. Her reflection in the glass looked different now. Older, yes, but also steadier. She opened her journal, the same one she'd kept since escaping Manhattan, and wrote, February 14th. Tomorrow I face the city again. I used to think survival was the end of the story, but maybe it's just the first chapter of living. A gentle knock startled her. When she opened the door, Naomi stood there in her coat, holding a folder. You're still awake, Emily said, surprised. Couldn't sleep, Naomi replied. I just wanted to drop this off, press notes and security clearance. Ethan's team has everything locked down. Security? Emily frowned. Naomi nodded. Standard for high-profile events, but also, she hesitated. Just a precaution. Mark's quiet, but quiet men can still be dangerous. Emily's stomach tightened. You think he'll show up? Naomi's gaze was steady. I think you'll walk in tomorrow and remind him and everyone what power really looks like. Emily smiled faintly. That sounds like something Grace would say. She already did, Naomi replied, grinning. I just stole it. They laughed softly. When Naomi left, Emily closed the door, feeling something settle inside her, calm, unshakable. She glanced once more at Lily, sleeping peacefully, and whispered, You gave me my reason, baby girl. Tomorrow, I'll give you your legacy. Outside, the city lights seemed to bow before the dawn to come. Because before the world could celebrate her victory, Emily Carter had to face it head-on, with grace, truth, and fire. The next evening, the city glimmered like a constellation come to life. Limousines lined the front of the Plaza Hotel, their headlights reflecting off the wet pavement as guests in gowns and tuxedos streamed inside. The grand chandelier spilled gold light across the marble floors, and photographers' flashes danced like fireworks. Emily Carter stepped from her car, heart hammering beneath the elegant black satin gown Grace had lent her. Her hair was swept into a soft chignon, a silver pendant resting above her collarbone, her mother's gift. The cold February air kissed her bare shoulders, but for the first time in years, she didn't shiver. She stood taller, calmer, ready. Ethan was waiting near the entrance, a classic black tuxedo fitted perfectly to his frame. When he saw her, he paused mid-sentence, stunned for a heartbeat before smiling. You clean up better than anyone I've ever met. She laughed softly. That's your polite way of saying you didn't expect me to look like I belong here. I didn't say that, he replied, eyes warm. But you do. As they entered the ballroom, the sound of violins swelled. Crystal glasses clinked and servers floated by with trays of champagne. Emily's senses buzzed, the scent of perfume, the soft hum of polite conversation, the shimmering skyline beyond the tall windows. Every part of this world once belonged to Mark. Now it was hers to walk through freely. Naomi and Grace were already at a table near the stage, waving her over. Grace grinned. Look at you, Emily Carter, the phoenix of Fifth Avenue. Emily rolled her eyes but smiled. Please don't call me that. Naomi leaned in. Too late, the press is already calling you the woman who stood up to power. You're trending again, but this time for the right reason. Before Emily could respond, the host's voice echoed from the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we honor the courage and compassion of those who make our communities safer for mothers and children. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Miss Emily Carter. Applause rippled across the room. Emily froze for half a second, her throat tightening. Ethan whispered, Go remind them why they're here. She climbed the steps to the stage. The lights were blinding at first, but then she found her rhythm. I'm not a CEO, she began. I'm not a politician or a celebrity. I'm just a nurse, a mother, and someone who once believed that silence could protect me. The room quieted. For years I thought strength meant enduring pain quietly, but I learned that true strength is standing up, even when your voice shakes. It's protecting what you love when the world tells you you're overreacting. She paused, scanning the audience. Tonight isn't about me, it's about every woman who thought she had to stay small to survive. I did once, but I don't anymore. The applause started softly, then grew louder, spreading across the ballroom like thunder. Ethan stood at the edge of the stage, clapping, pride gleaming in his eyes. As she stepped down, a reporter near the back called out, Emily, any words for Mark Reynolds? The room went still. Cameras turned. Emily stopped, meeting the reporter's gaze without flinching. I wish him peace, she said simply, because I've already found mine. Flashbulbs erupted. The crowd erupted into applause again, but this time it wasn't polite. It was raw, emotional. Later, as the music resumed and champagne flowed, Ethan found her by the balcony overlooking Central Park. The night air was cool, and the city shimmered beneath them. "You handled that perfectly," he said quietly. She smiled. "For once, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt alive." He looked at her for a long moment. "That's the woman I saw the first day we met." She turned to the skyline, the reflection of city lights dancing in her eyes. "Then maybe she's finally back." Because tonight wasn't just a gala, it was Emily Carter's rebirth in the city that once broke her. The next morning, Manhattan woke up to a storm of headlines. Emily Carter's speech brings the plaza to tears. From betrayal to bravery, the night a mother reclaimed her voice. Ex-husband Mark Reynolds reportedly under federal investigation for fraud. Emily sat in her apartment with a mug of coffee, the TV muted, her baby playing on the rug beside her. It felt unreal. The entire country suddenly knowing her name, her story, her pain. She hadn't asked for fame, but truth had made her visible, and visibility was power. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Dozens of calls, hundreds of messages. Grace had texted, "You broke the internet. I cried watching you." Naomi added, "Don't talk to any reporter without me." And Ethan, his message was simple. "Proud of you, always." Emily smiled, setting the phone down. For the first time, the noise didn't scare her. It couldn't touch her peace. But peace never lasted long when Mark Reynolds was involved. At noon, Naomi called, her tone sharp. "Emily, you need to brace yourself." Emily's heart skipped. "What happened?" "Mark's camp just made a move. They're trying to spin the narrative, claiming the recordings were edited and that your accusations were a plot to destroy his career. He's threatening to sue you for defamation." Emily's stomach twisted. "Can he?" Naomi sighed. "He can try, but he won't win. We've got more than enough evidence. Still, it means more cameras, more scrutiny. You'll have to be careful." Emily rubbed her temples. "I thought this was over." "It's close," Naomi said. "But men like him, they don't stop until they lose everything." After the call, Emily looked out the window. Snow was melting on the city sidewalks, but the world below moved in chaos. Cars honking, people rushing, reporters swarming. Her face had been on every screen, her name on every feed. She wondered how someone who once felt invisible could now feel so exposed. That evening, there was a knock on her door. For a split second, fear froze her, but then she heard his voice. "It's me, Ethan." She opened the door. He stood there, coat dusted with snow, holding a brown envelope. "I didn't want to text this," he said softly. "You need to see it." Inside the envelope were printed screenshots, emails from Mark's company servers, forwarded anonymously to Naomi. Financial documents, wire transfers, falsified reports, evidence of embezzlement. Emily's eyes widened. "Where did this come from?" "Someone inside his company," Ethan said. "They sent it to me first knowing I'd protect you. Naomi already verified, it's real. He's been moving money offshore for years." Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. "This could destroy him completely." Ethan nodded. "And it will. But it's your choice. Naomi won't move unless you authorize it." Emily stared at the papers. For so long, revenge had been a temptation she'd buried beneath survival. Now justice was within reach, but it felt heavy, not sweet. "Do it," she said quietly. "Not for me, for every woman he's ever made feel powerless." Ethan's expression softened. "You sure?" "Yes. I'm done being afraid of what happens when the truth comes out," he nodded. "Then tomorrow, we end this." Later that night, Emily stood by Lily's crib, watching her daughter sleep. The city lights painted soft patterns across the walls. Somewhere out there, Mark was probably pacing, calling lawyers, trying to control a story that no longer belonged to him. She whispered, "You can't control light once it's escaped the dark." Her reflection in the window looked stronger than ever. No longer the woman who ran, but the one who returned. Tomorrow would bring another storm. But this time, she wouldn't hide. Because the truth was finally hers to wield. And she was done letting anyone twist it. The following week unfolded like the last act of a long, painful play. The city buzzed with rumors, headlines, and speculation about Mark Reynolds. Every network, every blog, every talk show had his name plastered across the screen. Federal agents investigate corporate fraud at Reynolds and Pierce. Audio evidence and leaked financials may lead to criminal charges. Emily Carter, the nurse who took down a giant. Emily Carter watched it all from her living room, her baby asleep against her chest. The news didn't thrill her, it just felt like balance finally tipping back to where it always should have been. The next morning, Naomi called. It's official. The Department of Justice is pressing charges. Wire fraud, embezzlement, falsifying corporate statements. He's facing prison, Emily. Emily's voice was quiet. And me? You're clear. The restraining order stays in effect, and your testimony is complete. They won't need you again. Emily exhaled, the weight in her chest slowly lifting. It's really over. Naomi's tone softened. It's over for him, but for you, it's just beginning. After the call, Emily stepped onto her balcony, the winter air sharp against her skin. For the first time in months, she could breathe deeply. The world outside looked new. By evening, her phone rang again. This time it was Grace. Turn on Channel 7. Emily grabbed the remote. On screen, a reporter stood outside a courthouse as Mark was led through a crowd of flashing cameras, flanked by his lawyers. His face, once smug and untouchable, now looked hollow, defeated. The reporter spoke. Sources confirmed that the evidence submitted by Emily Carter and her legal team was critical in uncovering a pattern of corporate deceit. Insiders say more executives could be implicated. Emily turned off the TV. She didn't need to watch his downfall. Seeing him stripped of his arrogance was enough. That night, Ethan stopped by with takeout and 2 cups of tea. He didn't say anything at first. He just handed her the food and sat quietly beside her. Big day, he said finally. Emily nodded. I should feel happy, but I don't. You don't have to, he said gently. You don't owe the world your joy right now. You owe yourself peace. She smiled faintly. Peace feels strange, like silence after too much noise. Then maybe it's time you get used to it. They ate quietly, the hum of the city outside their only soundtrack. After dinner, Ethan handed her a small envelope. This came for you, from the hospital foundation. Inside was an invitation, an official letter offering her a permanent role as head of the Community Wellness Initiative, the same project she'd helped launch with Ethan. Her throat tightened as she read the words. They want me to lead? Ethan nodded. You earned it. The world finally sees what I saw the first day we met. A woman who builds, not breaks. Emily blinked back tears. I don't even know how to thank you. Don't, he said softly. Just keep doing what you do. That's thanks enough. As the night deepened, she walked him to the door. He hesitated, looking at her for a long moment. You ever think about what comes next? She smiled. I used to think next was something that happened to me. Now I think it's something I get to choose. Ethan's eyes warmed. Then choose something beautiful. When he left, Emily stood by the window again. The city sparkled below her. The same city that once tried to break her, now quietly bowing to her resilience. Lily stirred in her crib, and Emily whispered, You'll never have to grow up afraid of anyone's shadow. Tomorrow, newspapers would keep writing about Mark Reynolds. Lawyers would dissect the case. The world would move on. But Emily Carter didn't need their noise anymore, because justice wasn't revenge, it was release, and she was finally free. Spring arrived quietly that year, washing Manhattan in soft light and cherry blossoms. The city that once echoed with Emily Carter's fear now hummed with her rebirth. Every corner she walked through felt different. Still loud, still alive, but no longer suffocating. She was no longer hiding from her past. She was walking through it, head held high. Her mornings began with Lily's laughter instead of worry. Her days belonged to the Community Wellness Initiative, where she trained young nurses and built clinics across New York's boroughs. The work was exhausting, but it healed her in ways therapy never could. Still, one day stood out among all others, the day Mark Reynolds' sentencing was announced. Naomi met her outside the courthouse, a spring breeze tugging at her coat. He took the plea deal, Naomi said, her tone matter of fact. 7 years in federal prison. No appeal. Emily stared at the courthouse steps, the same marble where she once stood trembling, clutching evidence like a lifeline. 7 years, she murmured. That's not long. Naomi's voice softened. It's long enough for you to live freely. They stood there in silence for a moment, the hum of distant traffic filling the air. Later that evening, the news broke everywhere. Disgraced executive Mark Reynolds sentenced. Wife who exposed corporate lies declines to comment. Emily didn't need to speak. The silence was her statement. That night, she went to Central Park with Lily. The city skyline shimmered in the distance, golden against the fading sky. She sat on a bench beneath blooming trees and whispered, "We made it, baby. It's really over." Lily gurgled, reaching for a petal, her tiny fingers brushing the air. Emily smiled, feeling something she hadn't felt in years: peace without guilt. The next morning, Ethan showed up at her office with 2 coffees. "Congratulations, Director Carter," he teased, setting one cup beside her stack of papers. She looked up from her laptop, grinning. "You know, you keep saying that like it's not surreal." "Because it is surreal," he said. "You were supposed to be another one of his footnotes. Instead, you rewrote the entire story." Emily shook her head. "I didn't do it alone." Ethan sat on the edge of her desk. "No, but you led it. That's the part no one can take away." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world outside disappeared. There was no courtroom, no past, no noise, just quiet understanding between 2 people who had both lost and found themselves in the same city. He broke the silence first. "There's a gala next week for the Hospital Foundation. Smaller this time. You should come, not as a guest, as a speaker." She laughed. "Another speech? I thought I retired from those." "Not this kind," he said, smiling. "This one's about hope, not survival." That night, Emily thought about what he said. She stood by her window, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. The same towers that once mocked her now glittered like old friends. She wasn't the woman who had fled in the rain anymore. She was the one who'd returned with purpose. She opened her journal again, writing in careful script. "You can't control how people break you, but you can choose how you rebuild." When she finished, she closed the book and exhaled deeply. Somewhere in a federal cell, Mark Reynolds would be staring at a gray wall, counting years. She didn't hate him anymore. Hate required energy, and she had none left to give him. Outside, thunder rolled gently in the distance, the kind that promised rain but never threatened destruction. She smiled, because storms didn't scare her anymore. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. "Dinner tomorrow? No meetings, just us." She typed back, "I'd like that." Then she turned off the light, kissed Lily goodnight, and lay in bed, heart finally still. Because while his story was ending behind bars, hers was just beginning in the light. The evening sun dripped gold over Manhattan's skyline, turning the glass towers into rivers of light. From the rooftop terrace of the Ritz-Carlton, soft jazz drifted through the air as guests gathered for the Hospital Foundation's spring gala. The theme this year wasn't charity or fundraising. It was rebirth, a word that fit Emily Carter better than any label the world had ever given her. She stood near the balcony, her black gown replaced by a soft champagne dress that shimmered when she moved. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders, and the diamond bracelet on her wrist caught the sunset. It wasn't borrowed, wasn't gifted. She had bought it herself last month, her first true indulgence in years. A symbol of independence, not luxury. Below her, Central Park stretched out in full bloom. She could hear the faint hum of the city she once feared. Now it sounded like applause. Ethan appeared beside her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "You always seem to find the quietest spot in the loudest room," he said, smiling. Emily accepted a glass. "Habit. Nurses like to see everything from a distance first," he chuckled. "Even now? Especially now." They stood in comfortable silence, the wind tugging gently at her hair. Inside, Naomi and Grace were chatting near the stage, both watching her with proud, knowing smiles. Somewhere in the background, the MC's voice announced the evening's highlight, a tribute to the women who had inspired change in healthcare and community safety. Ethan glanced toward the stage. "They're going to call you up soon." Emily sighed. "I thought this was supposed to be a small event." He grinned. "In New York, nothing small stays small, especially not stories like yours." The applause inside swelled, followed by the host's words. "Tonight, we honor someone who turned her pain into purpose, someone who reminded us that courage is contagious. Please welcome Miss Emily Carter." She froze for half a second, then took a deep breath. Ethan squeezed her hand. "Go show them what resilience looks like." She walked to the stage under the warm light. The crowd rose in a standing ovation before she even spoke. It wasn't fame she felt, it was validation. Every heartbreak, every scar, every lonely night had led here. When the applause softened, she smiled and began. "A few years ago, I was standing in a hospital hallway, believing my life had ended. Tonight, I'm standing in another one, realizing it was just beginning." A quiet murmur rippled through the audience. I used to think healing was about forgetting, she continued. But it's not. Healing is remembering, without breaking. It's waking up one day and realizing that the same heart that once shattered is strong enough to hold joy again. She paused, scanning the room. To every woman who has ever been told she's too fragile, too emotional, too much, I hope my story reminds you. Strength doesn't mean silence. It means speaking, even when your voice trembles. Tears shimmered in Grace's eyes. Naomi pressed her hand to her heart. Ethan's gaze never left her. Emily finished softly, "My daughter will grow up knowing that love isn't measured by what you endure, but by what you choose to walk away from." The crowd rose again, clapping, cheering. Cameras flashed, but Emily didn't see the lights. She saw Lily's smile in her mind, the purest reminder of why she fought. Afterward, Ethan found her backstage, handing her a small velvet box. "You didn't have to," she started, but he interrupted. "It's not jewelry," he said. "Open it." Inside was a tiny silver key. "To what?" she asked, confused. Ethan smiled. "To your new office. The Foundation's board just voted. You're now co-director of the entire community wellness program." Emily stared at him, stunned. "You're serious?" "As a heartbeat," he said. Tears filled her eyes. She laughed, shaking her head. "I don't know what to say." "Say you're ready," he replied. She looked at him, really looked, and nodded. "I'm ready." Outside, the city glowed, endless and alive. For the first time, it didn't feel like a place of loss. It felt like home. Because her story wasn't about the man who broke her. It was about the woman who rebuilt herself and found love waiting in the light. So, that's how Emily's story ends. Not with revenge, but with rebirth. And if you're still here, listening all the way to this moment, maybe something in her journey touched a part of your heart too. Because deep down, we've all had our own Mark Reynolds. A chapter that broke us, a storm that almost made us forget who we are. But like the Stoics once said, what stands in the way becomes the way. Pain isn't there to punish us, it's there to shape us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly what Emily did. She stopped running from her pain and learned to build from it. So tonight, wherever you are, take a deep breath. Remember that you're still standing, and that's already victory. You are stronger than what tried to destroy you. If this story moved you even a little, hit that like. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel, because we're building a space for stories that heal, that remind us. No darkness lasts forever when you choose to rise again. You're not alone. You never were.